We came off a run where it seemed like Trump was tossing sevens on the table with every decision he made, and then last week or so we haven't been that pleased with the decisions he made. So we've kind of run the full Trump. So I thought it just might be interesting after having run the gamut of Trump as a president, what people's opinions were. So a few days ago, I asked our audience, would you support a primary challenge of Donald Trump in 2020? We've had upwards of 2,400 people respond to this poll. 19% said never, 23% said yes, no matter who it is. 58% said only by a true conservative. Now, some hashtag MAGA person right away said, well, it's not like your audience represents what everybody thinks. I'm aware of that. I just kind of wanted to know what our audience thinks. So, looking at whom you probably assume most of our audience is, I thought it'd be interesting to get now our reaction to your votes in that poll for our roundtable today. And joining us for that conversation is our White House correspondent at CRTV, John Miller. Good to see you, John. Looking sharp in that tie, brother. I like it.
Hey, Steve. Thank you very much. So, well, I have a quick question for you. Who are the people who said no matter who it is? Like, I mean, does that literally mean anyone? When you wrote the question, were you thinking it could be Farrakhan, just somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I thought no matter who it is, would be Jeff Flake from the left, Dennis Kucinich, John Kasich. At this point, I'm getting John Kasich and Dennis Kucinich mixed up, if you know what I'm saying. Okay? Yeah, so I mean, that's kind of what I meant. What I was trying to find out is, where are we at with people whose disdain just cannot be overcome? Where are we at with people that no matter where he's at on an issue, no matter what, you wouldn't want that to happen? I was just trying to take the temperature in the room, nothing more than that.
And I mean, I understand the sentiments of the people who say, if we get a primary from a true conservative, I would support it. I do want to warn them, however, when you primary the President of the United States, you are literally sending the message that you have such a fundamental disagreement with the direction that this country is headed in under the current president that you would do something that's really not common, which is primary the President of the United States. And also I would caution those people who would say only by true conservative that it doesn't really work out. I mean, we have not had in this century a successful primary campaign. And on top of it, Trump still beat out 16 very qualified, very conservative, or, you know, not all of them, but a lot of them very conservative candidates. And that was before he had a record to run on. Now he has a pretty solid conservative record, despite the nuances that go on with his administration. With Heritage Foundation, who I think a lot of people would agree has conservative credentials, saying that he is doing a faster job than Reagan in implementing their conservative agenda, I think you're going to have really big problems running a primary candidate on Palace Intrigue stuff and on the tweeting and on Stormy Daniels stuff. I think that Trump has proven that he can accomplish a conservative agenda, despite the fact that he himself may not be a true conservative himself.
What do you think, Tom? Historically, by the way, John is correct. They're not very successful. And you go back to Reagan's challenge of Ford from the right in '76, and Ford was not popular, wasn't elected, so he didn't have a real connection with the American people, and even Reagan fell a little bit short in that bit.
And then they always lose. The actual incumbent loses, usually.
People forget Jimmy Carter was primaried from the left by Ted Kennedy in 1980 before he lost to Ronald Reagan. Pat Buchanan challenged George H.W. Bush from the right in 1992 before he lost to Bill Clinton. So historically, at least in modern history, John is right about that as well. Your thoughts, Todd?
Well, at the end of the year, we gave Trump grades. And I would have given him a D were it not for the tax cuts. He did strip away the regulations. Thank goodness that, and that's undeniably conservative. But
I gave him a B minus, which was the highest grade.
I gave him.
So I became the Trump show.
I gave him a C minus. Getting rid of those that was important, but that was a reaction. Conservative needs to ultimately go on offense, and I ultimately don't think he is capable or interested in doing that because he's not a conservative. So yeah, this year had some conservative highlights. No one should be lying to himself about this guy is a conservative on par of Reagan, and that's in no way do I think John was doing that. We're just talking about the record before us. But what has he done since those tax cuts? There's a laugh track to what he's done since the tax cuts, quite frankly. The last couple of months have been, and I'm not even talking about Russia or strippers. I'm talking about policy. It's not good. And furthermore, listen, I have a reaction that's guttural to all of those, whether they're on the right or the left, who are in positions of power, when somebody wants to primary them, and it's not crazy tinfoil hat guy from nowhere. It's somebody who's a legitimate part of has bona fides on some level, has run for office, and they want to debate. And there's I'm not going to debate that person. Really, it doesn't matter on the right or the left. That's a punk move. If you want to hold serve, you have to go back and enter into the arena ideas, and you got to partake in that. You are an elected official. You never, I repeat, never get to sit there and say, no, this is my chair. You don't get. No, you got to go back and you got to prove it again and again and again. We have a representative republic. So listen, this has less to do about Trump specifically, that argument, about what you owe the American people and our form of government. If there's a legitimate conservative who wants to primary him, I don't care who it is, I don't think you have a leg to stand on this. Welcome to America is my argument. This is who we are as a people. If you for once sit there and grandstand and say, I'm not going to dignify that person with a reply, pick the conservative out of nowhere. Tom Cotton, I don't know. Yeah, you do. You got to answer that. You got to go to war that way. That's who we are as a people. And whether it's Trump or somebody else, you are not dignifying the process you claim to love. Well, you want to make America great again? You don't get to. You do not get to ignore this.
Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I think talking about 2020, it wasn't your reaction, Todd, most of the time. No. So that's slightly my reaction now. But as far as the actual feasibility of this, the only way you're going to have any legitimacy at all primarying Trump, if there was somebody to primary Trump, is if you do it from the right. But even then, I think as John was saying, even then, all you're going to be really campaigning on or have to campaign on is well, I won't tweet as much, and I promise not to act like a jackass sometimes and call sleepy Chuck Todd, son of a you know what. Yeah, that's basically all you're going to be running with. Same great taste, less filling type of thing. So that would be a really uphill battle, and history is against you at any rate. But again, the only way you would actually have some legitimacy in the eyes of the votes that you need the most is to actually come and attack Trump from the right.
So let's throw out a few names of people that have been talked about as potential primary challenges for him. And I'll put my analysis of these two camps, and you guys are free to agree or disagree. Let's start with the Jeff Flake, John Kasich camp. If I were in Trump's political shop, I would be offering alms to Allah, making pilgrimages to Mecca. I'd touch them all, right? I mean, I'd be holding Seder meals, for my Jewish friends. I'd hit Mass maybe on a midnight, and then, I hit a Sunday at an evangelical church the next morning. I mean, I'm going to every potential higher power that may or may not exist on planet Earth or within the cosmos to pray either Jeff Flake or John Kasich primary me, because whatever part of my base is looking at me funny after tariffs and DACA and amnesty and let's raise the age on guns, throw those guys out there as my foil, and I am ironclad with my base if those sanctimonious son of a guns are out there running against me on MSNBC. John, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think that it's already, love it or hate it, Trump's party in many ways. I think that there are people, true conservatives, who have legitimacy within Trump's party, and those two clowns are not them. So if you primary those guys, either one of them against Trump, I mean, Kasich won one state. He still thinks he has a chance in this race. I think that they have almost no respect within the party, and pitting them against Trump is just going to lessen whatever little credibility they have. And it would be a straight shot for Trump. It wouldn't even be a question.
Todd, quickly, you agree, disagree?
Oh yeah, I agree. This is like that scene from Rocky IV, right at the beginning when Ivan Drago's just killing Apollo. Throw in the towel, man.
What do you think, Aaron?
Oh, absolutely. That would be the best case scenario for Trump if he was primaried from the left by his own party.
So let's throw out another name, someone who could challenge Trump from the right, and it won't be anybody like Ted Cruz or anybody like that. I mean, he is going to bide his time. And you can see what Cruz's strategy is. He got beat by the Drudge Rush Fox News military industrial complex. last time, and so he is on these outlets. I mean, he's like lives on Fox right now. You can see Cruz is learning from some of the reasons why he lost the last time. But how about a guy like Ben Sasse, who I didn't expect this when I wrote about how, the other day for Conservative Review how bad the red state Liberty scores were of Republicans in the Senate. I found that right now Ben Sasse has a higher Liberty score than Ted Cruz does at Conservative Review. So let's throw in a Ben Sasse. He's from a neighboring state to the First in the Nation caucus in Iowa. What about him? Would he have any snowball's chance at all, John? What say you?
I think on substance, he has a legitimate fight, but on style alone, which is something that, you have to remember the big debates that they have, and you have to remember that when debating Trump, I think he just gets crushed because he's very nice and very innocent. I feel like on a national stage, Trump would just run over him and then back up over him again. I really don't think, stylistically only, that he has what it takes to run against Trump in a primary race here.
What do you think, Todd?
Oh, I think Sasse would beat him in debates just like Ted Cruz and just like Carly Fiorina beat him in debates, and you know what? It didn't matter. I know what I just said about what should happen, but I can't imagine a single person in actuality beating Donald Trump because of what John just said. It is his party. So yeah, would he win debates, Ben Sasse? Every single one of them, he'd beat him. And he's smarter than him. He knows policy better, but he would still lose and lose by a lot.
Aaron?
Yeah, what Todd said. That's really frustrating. I mean, Ben Sasse would have certain segments of the vote locked up if he primaried. He'd have people in my age demographic. I think that would be fine. I think maybe he'd have a chance in the suburbs as well. But the core of Trump's, it seems, the core of his base, which is people who watch Fox News, essentially, there's no way, no snowball's chance in hell that Sasse would be able to penetrate that. So his hope would be basically raising his name ID through that process.
So final question quickly, because we're almost out of time. Is there something that Trump could do or something that would happen in the next 9 months, because really you'd have to get this off the ground in the first quarter of 2019 if you were serious about it. Is there something Trump could do or something that could happen where your opinions on this dynamic might change? Aaron?
If he actually follows through on changing, which it sounds like he's not going to, but if he was to try to enact some sort of executive order involving the Second Amendment, raising the age to purchase a firearm. If he were to try to do something like that, I think then there might be an outside shot that somebody would actually have a legitimate chance of winning a primary against him. Not just putting out a big dent, I think actually winning if he tries to touch on one of those core issues.
Todd?
No.
Nothing?
Nothing.
What do you think, John?
I will have to think about it. I think if he leaves the White House in handcuffs, that might be something that changes my mind. Also, I think that it's important. Trump responds to criticism from the right. You saw with the White House proposal that he came out with on gun safety. All of the stuff that the right was criticizing him on about the NRA is out of there. So he clearly responds to conservative pressure, and I think that if he continues to listen to conservatives and conservatives still have the ability to influence, because he just wants to be popular. So if conservatives continue to push him, I think that we should be safe, and I wouldn't change my answer.
I think, John, that's a great way to end it. That would be my closing thought, is everything you just heard from John is regardless of whatever his worldview may be at a given moment, one consistency with Trump has been, he, besides his own ego, of course, is he is sensitive to criticism from the right. We should use it to our advantage. Put down the pom-poms, the splotchy green eyeliner, and the Newport lights, and show them a little leg out at the street corner. Get rid of that. That might be good for clicks. But if we want to actually influence public policy, everything John just told you there is right on the money. He is sensitive to criticism from the right. I say we keep it up. Good to see you, John.
Good to see you, Steve. Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for today on CRTV.